I hadn't been back to my hometown in years. It felt good to reconnect with old friends and take pictures of the beach. I remembered the colorful boardwalk and those old worn houses. It all seemed familiar and comforting at first. But that summer didn't leave my mind. The first night, I walked along the shore. The waves crashed softly, and everything was peaceful. Then I saw him. A figure stood at the water's edge, just watching. I thought I was tired. I wanted to take a photo, but I felt uneasy. So I went back to my rental, trying to shake it off. As the days passed, strange things began to happen. I kept seeing that figure. At first, it was just a glimpse, but then I could see him more clearly. He was tall and dark, his eyes fixed on my friends and me. I took photos during our beach days. In the background, shadows loomed. It felt like something was moving behind us. I couldn't enjoy the laughter or the splashes anymore. Something was creeping in little by little. Then my friends started to disappear. It started with Sarah. We were supposed to meet for dinner, but she didn't show. We searched for her everywhere. It was like she had vanished. I felt a knot in my stomach as each hour crawled by. Days later, Tom didn't come back from his walk. I could hardly sleep. Every shadow on my wall made my heart race. I kept thinking about that figure. How long had he been watching? Maybe he was tied to the town's history, something I didn't understand. My thoughts raced, but I was scared. The town felt heavy, shrouded in darkness. I started avoiding the beach, but there was a pull, a need to face what haunted me. One night, I stepped outside for some fresh air. The moonlit sand was empty. I felt a chill run through me. Then I spotted him again. He stood at the water's edge like before. "Why are you watching me?" I yelled. My voice was shaky, and it echoed around me. He didn't answer. He just stared. I couldn't move. I wanted to run, but my legs didn't respond. I took a step closer. I had to know. Maybe I thought confronting him would bring answers. But then he was gone. No footprints, no signs he had ever been there. Just emptiness. I stood there, heart racing, breathless. I felt like I'd crossed a line without knowing it. In that moment, I realized I was not done with this. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was waiting, something that wouldn't let me go. I was trapped in a nightmare, and I still had no idea why. The next day, I couldn't sit still. I had to talk to someone, anyone, about what was happening. I thought about Sarah and Tom, and the fear washed over me again. Were they really gone, or was there something more sinister at play? Decided to visit the local diner. The familiar smell of coffee and fried food greeted me as I entered. This place used to be a comfort, but today it felt different. Everyone kept their heads down, absorbed in their meals. I hadn't seen many faces I recognized, and that made me uneasy. "Hey there," Dottie, the waitress, said cheerfully, but something in her eyes said otherwise. "What can I get ya?" I hesitated. "Do you know if anyone's heard from Sarah or Tom?" Dottie's smile faded. "You should probably talk to Margaret. She knows everyone around here." I didn't argue. I quickly finished my coffee and left a tip on the table before heading out. The sun was shining, but it felt cold. I made my way to Margaret's house, my steps quickening as anxiety built inside me. When I arrived, Margaret was sitting on her porch, knitting. She looked up when I approached, her brow furrowing. "Hello, dear. What brings you back?" "Margaret, I need to know if you've seen Sarah and Tom," I blurted out. "They've both gone missing." Her eyes widened, and she set her knitting down. "Missing? That's troubling. The last time I saw Tom, he was heading to the beach. I warned him, you have to be careful around there." "Careful of what?" I asked, my gut tightening. She glanced around as if checking to see if anyone could hear. "The legends," she whispered. "There's an old story about the sea. It calls to people. Once you hear it, you might not come back." I scoffed. but a part of me remembered that feeling of being drawn to the water. What do you mean? Just because it's a ghost story doesn't mean it's true. Margaret shook her head. It's not just a story, dear. The figure you see, that's a warning. You should stay away from the beach. Why didn't anyone tell me sooner? I could feel panic rising in my chest. I need to find Sarah and Tom. You're not understanding. Sometimes the ocean takes what it wants, she said softly. You could be next. Her words chilled me. I thanked her and hurried back to my rental. I grabbed my camera, thinking I could find something, anything to give me answers. As I walked toward the beach, the wind picked up. It felt like fingers brushing against my skin, urging me to turn back. But I pressed on. The moment I reached the sand, I noticed my surroundings felt different, charged. Suddenly, I spotted something half buried in the shore. My heart raced. I rushed over and knelt down, pulling sand away with trembling hands. That's when I saw it. A bracelet. It was Sarah's. I picked it up, and an overwhelming rush of dread washed over me. I squeezed it tightly, determined not to let fear win. But just then, I caught movement out of the corner of my eye. The figure stood there once again, watching. I froze, and this time, I recognized that. He was closer than before. I couldn't breathe. My pulse quickened as I stared at the figure. He didn't look away, and in that moment it felt like the world around us had faded. The sound of the waves crashed behind me, but it was muffled, like I was underwater. I wanted to scream, to run, but my legs felt heavy. The figure was tall, dressed in tattered clothes that flapped against his body in the wind. His face was obscured by shadows, but I could feel his eyes piercing through me. "Who are you?" I managed to croak. The words felt weak as they left my lips. He didn't respond, didn't even move. I tightened my grip on Sarah's bracelet, as if it could shield me from whatever darkness he brought with him. I glanced back at the waves, the horizon stretching infinitely. What was it Margaret had said? The ocean takes what it wants. Just then, the figure pointed towards the water. My heart raced as I followed his gesture. The waves seemed to swell, dark and powerful, calling to me. I felt a strange pull, an urge to walk closer. "No," I whispered to myself, stepping back. I could feel the sand beneath my feet shifting, like it wanted to swallow me whole. I fought against the urge to approach the water. Suddenly, the figure turned and took a step away from me, disappearing into a thick fog that rolled in from the sea. I blinked, and in the span of a heartbeat, he was gone. It was as if he had never been there at all. My breath came in quick gasps. Adrenaline surged through my veins, and I dropped to the ground, staring at the spot where he had stood. What was happening? I needed to act, but dread kept gripping my thoughts. Then my gaze fell to Sarah's bracelet, still clutched in my hand. I remembered the last time I saw her, laughing and carefree as she splashed in the water. I had to find her. I forced my body to move again, shaking off the heaviness of fear. I looked back at the ocean, then toward the dimming sky. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the sand. I couldn't stay here. I needed answers. Maybe there was someone else who could help me. Scanning the beach, I spotted a small cottage not far from where I stood. It looked abandoned, but had a flicker of light shining through a cracked window. I rushed toward it, my instincts guiding me. As I knocked on the door, it creaked open, revealing a dim interior filled with dust and remnants of old memories. "Hello?" My voice echoed in the silence. And then, just as I started to step in, I felt a cold gust sweep through, making me shiver. There was a sudden sound from inside the cottage, sharp and clear, as if someone, or something, was warning me not to enter. I hesitated, my fear bubbling to the surface again. Should I go in or turn back? But before I could decide, I noticed a figure moving in the shadows inside. "Who's there?" I called out, my throat tight with anxiety. No reply came, but I could feel eyes on me, waiting. The figure lingered just out of sight, hiding behind the rotting wood of the cottage. I took a shallow breath, my heart pounding with a mixture of fear and urgency. "Hello?" I tried again, hoping for a response. My voice sounded small in the eerie stillness. Then I saw a flash of movement. A gaunt face emerged from the shadows, pale and drawn. "You shouldn't be here," she hissed, her voice a low warning. "It's not safe." "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. "What do you know about the figure on the beach? Have you seen my friend?" She shook her head slowly, almost sadly. "It's not just about your friend. He comes for more than you can imagine. The tide is changing, and soon it will claim what it desires." Her words sent shivers down my spine. The ocean? Was she talking about Sarah? "I don't understand," I said, stepping closer, despite the chill that gripped the air. "Please, I need help. I have to find her." The woman's expression changed, shifting from concern to something more foreboding. "You think you can stop it? The ocean and its secrets are ancient. You are merely a flicker against the night. But I can help you, but only if you're willing to listen." I nodded, desperate for any kind of answer. "Yes, I'll do anything." "Follow me," she said, stepping back. I hesitated for a moment. The instinct to flee battled against my yearning for answers. But I couldn't let fear keep me from finding Sarah. I stepped inside the cottage. The air was thick and musty, and the dim light flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. Dust particles floated in the air like tiny ghosts. In one corner, old photographs hung askew, faces obscured, as if they were trying to hide. I felt a sense of being trapped in time. "Sit," the woman instructed, gesturing toward a rickety chair. I complied, my hands gripping the armrests tightly as I waited for her to explain. She rummaged through a pile of clutter, bringing out a faded map. "This is no ordinary place. The water holds memory, and that figure, it is not just an apparition. He's tied to the ocean's will." As she spoke, a sense of urgency filled the room. "You need to go to the point where the waves rise the highest, where land meets the deepest part of the sea." "Why?" I asked, my pulse quickening again. "What will I find?" But just as she opened her mouth to answer, the cottage door slammed shut, rattling the walls. I shot up, alarm ringing. In my head, what was that? Before she could respond, the ground shook beneath our feet, and for a brief moment the lights flickered out entirely. Then everything went dark. I heard her voice yelling, "You have to move, now!" And that's when I felt it, a strange pull from outside, as if the ocean itself was calling me. I stumbled forward, disoriented in the darkness. My instinct screamed for me to get out. "What's happening?" I gasped, the frantic beat of my heart echoing in my ears. "Move!" Her voice cut through the fear, sharp and demanding. I took a step towards the door, but it felt like it had a life of its own, refusing to budge. "Why won't it open?" I cried, trying to yank it free. The wood creaked ominously, the menace of the unseen pressing in on me. "Not just the door," she urged. "You need to escape the pull." I staggered back, confusion clouding my mind. "Escape the pull? What do you mean?" But I didn't need her to explain. A surge of energy washed over me. The overwhelming force pulling me toward the ocean felt tangible, like fingers dragging me closer. I knew I had to escape. I turned to her, my eyes widening. "What do I do?" "Listen." Her eyes were fierce and focused. "The water remembers. You must go to the highest point." At her urging, I dashed toward the cracked windows, squinting against the dimness. Outside, waves lashed violently against the shore, roaring like a wild beast. The ocean seemed alive with malevolence. "Go!" she shouted again, her voice nearly lost amidst the chaos. "You're running out of time." Without thinking, I dove for the window, struggling to pry it open. Sea salt sprayed my face, invigorating my senses. The map fluttered from the table, landing at my feet. My heart raced as I caught a glimpse of the coastline, the point she described. Instinctively, I knew I was meant to discover whatever was hidden there. Then I heard it, a deep, mournful sound from the water, echoing like a haunting melody. It wrapped around my thoughts, soft yet insistent. "Sarah," I whispered, feeling her name rise in my chest. My decision crystallized. I had to reach her. The window gave way, flinging open into the night. I clambered through, hitting the wet ground outside. The wind whipped around me, chaotic and frenzied. I sprinted down the path, the cottage looming behind me, a dark specter, almost forbidding my escape. But the magic of the tide beckoned, urging me to continue. "You can't be too late," I gasped, pushing my legs harder. The waves crashed, angry and demanding. As I neared the edge of the beach, the sky lit up with erratic flashes. Lightning streaked across the horizon, illuminating an unfamiliar figure near the water's edge. I skidded to a halt, staring at the tall silhouette cloaked in darkness. It wasn't the woman from the cottage, and the figure seemed to pulse with an eerie glow. My breath hitched in my throat. "Who are you?" I called out, feeling the weight of the unknown settle on my shoulders. The figure turned slowly, revealing a familiar face, but something was off. It looked like Sarah, yet her expression was blank, as if she were staring into the abyss. And that's when I realized the pull wasn't just about me, it was about her. "Sarah?" I whispered, my voice trembling as dread washed over me. "Come closer," she said in a tone that sent ice through my veins. I froze, heart hammering in my chest as I faced this new threat. Was she still my friend, or something else entirely? "Don't do it!" a voice screamed from behind me. The woman from the cottage had somehow followed me. My mind spun, caught between two alarming realities. Then the ocean surged, crashing over the shore with a deafening roar. The ocean roared louder, and I felt the ground shake beneath me. I was trapped between two dangers: Sarah, who looked so eerily like my best friend, and the woman from the cottage whose urgency clawed at my senses. My instinct screamed at me to run, but I couldn't pull my gaze from Sarah's expressionless face. "What happened to you?" I whispered, the connection we had tugging at my heart. The blankness in her eyes made me tremble. "Come closer," she repeated, her voice dripping with something that felt ancient and dangerous. "Stop!" I shouted, desperate and scared. But my voice felt small against the storm crashing around us. The waves were rushing nearer, threatening to swallow everything whole. "Sarah," I tried again, my voice cracking. "I'm here. Fight it. We need to get away." The woman from the cottage stepped forward, her face tightening with concern. "You must not listen to her. That is not your friend anymore. She belongs to the tides now." The wind picked up, biting at my skin, pushing me back. My thoughts raced. If Sarah wasn't herself, then what had she become? Fear gripped me as images of what I had always known flipped in my mind. The days we spent picking shells, laughing under the sun, now tinged with shadows. "I can't leave you," I yelled, feeling helpless. "We're supposed to go together." The ground beneath my feet felt unsteady again, pulling me toward the water. I had to anchor myself. I glanced back at the cottage, the dark figure of the woman still watching me. "What do I do?" I shouted at her, searching for answers in her frantic eyes. "Find the hidden stone," she shouted over the storm. "It's tied to her. If you break its hold—" "Where?" I interrupted, my eyes darting back to Sarah. "Near the cliffs." The woman pointed, waving her arms to emphasize urgency. Her voice became barely audible beneath the crashing waves. But I could barely think, my focus divided. I looked back at Sarah. "I'll come back, I promise." "Please," she said, voice laced with sorrow, but still void of warmth. With another pulse of the sea, I turned away from her, sprinting toward the dark cliffs in the distance. The world felt like it was shifting beneath my feet. Sharp rocks jutted out, and each step was a race against the tide. As I neared the base of the cliffs, I felt a cold mist swirl around me. Fear, like ice, wrapped its fingers around my throat. The wind howled, trying to steer me back to Sarah. I gritted my teeth and pushed forward, searching for anything that resembled the hidden stone the woman mentioned. Then, abruptly, the mist lifted momentarily. That's when I saw it, bedded into the earth, shimmering faintly beneath the waterlogged sand. A shape just beyond reach. My heart leaped, mixing hope with terror. But, as I bent down to grab it, a voice echoed across the water. "No!" It was Sarah, her tone breaking through the rain, infused with urgency. The moment I touched the stone, everything went dark around me. I gasped as the darkness closed in around me, drowning out all sound. For a moment, I felt weightless, suspended in an endless void. Fear clawed at my chest, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. I could still feel the stone beneath my fingers, cold and smooth, anchoring me to something real. Suddenly, light broke through. I blinked against the brightness, realizing I was no longer at the cliffs. I stood instead in an unfamiliar sunlit beach, the waves gently lapping at my feet. Confusion washed over me. Where was I? I turned in circles, trying to gather my bearings. The landscape looked completely different. The ocean sparkled in hues of blue and green. Seagulls called out overhead, their cries echoing through the air. In the distance, I spotted a figure, a woman, her back turned to me as she gazed at the water. "Hello?" I called, my voice fragile against the serene backdrop. The woman turned slowly. My breath caught in my throat as I recognized her from the cottage. But this version of her was different. Her features softened, almost serene. No frantic eyes, no urgency. She looked at me as if she knew something I didn't. "Come here," she beckoned, her voice calm, inviting. Every instinct told me to be cautious. "Is this a trick?" I asked, hesitating. "Not a trick," she assured me. "You have to understand. There are secrets to this place that you must uncover." "What happened to Sarah?" I asked, desperate for answers. The memory of her expressionless face haunted me like a shadow. "She is lost, ensnared by the tides you do not understand," the woman replied. "But you can save her." "By finding the stone?" I pressed, remembering the last frantic moments before the darkness. "Yes," she nodded slowly, "but not just any stone. The one connected to her life, her essence. It lies hidden in the depths of the sea." Panic surged through me. "You mean I need to dive down? What if I can't find it?" My stomach twisted at the thought. "Your love for her will guide you," she said. "Trust that connection. It's stronger than any fear." The waves began to swell, rising higher as if echoing my turmoil. "But how do I get to her?" I shouted over the crashing surf. "Search your heart. The answer lies within you," she urged, her voice fading like the tide pulling away. "And remember, time here can shift." Just as her image began to dissolve, the ground beneath me shook violently. I stumbled, losing my balance as the sky darkened again. The waves crashed with a fury that sent my heart racing. Suddenly, I was yanked back into the cold, thick mist, the sensation like falling into a well. And then I was back on the rocky beach, panting and disoriented. The storm still raged, but the figure was gone, leaving only the echo of her words in the depths of my mind. The tide pulled at my feet, reminding me of my mission. I had to find that stone. I couldn't just leave Sarah there. But now, with the ocean roaring behind me and the cliffs towering ahead, I realized I wasn't alone. Shadows danced in the mist, shifting shapes lurking just beyond the veil. I squinted, heart racing. Someone was watching. I clutched the cool stone tightly, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. The shadows moved closer, and I felt every nerve in my body spark with fear. I couldn't see clearly who or what was watching me, but I knew I wasn't alone. I took a step back, peering into the fog like it might reveal some hidden answer. "Show yourself," I demanded, trying to sound brave, even though my voice trembled. For a moment, nothing stirred. The wind howled, filling the silence. Then, out from the mist, a figure stepped forward. It was a man, tall and lean, his face obscured by the hood of a dark coat. I couldn't tell if he was friend or foe, but the intensity of his gaze made my heart race even faster. "Are you looking for something?" he asked, his voice low and smooth, almost teasing. "None of your business," I shot back, my grip tightening around the stone. He chuckled softly, a sound that echoed eerily. "But it is my business. You are not the first to search for what lies beneath the waves." His words stirred confusion and a flicker of annoyance in me. "What do you know about it?" I asked, curiosity overriding my fear. "More than you think. The stone you seek holds great power, but reach for it, and you might also draw the darkness that comes with it." He took a step closer, and the mist swirled around him like a living thing. "What darkness?" I pressed, feeling urgency gnaw at my insides. "Those tides can take more than they give. They whisper promises, but the cost may be too high." His eyes glinted with a strange light, as if he relished the weight of his words. I shook my head, frustration bubbling within me. "I have to save Sarah. I can't just abandon her." The man smiled sadly. "A noble wish, but a foolish one. The depths can consume you both." He turned, seemingly vanishing into the fog, but I called after him. "Wait, how do I find her?" His voice floated back to me, trailing off like smoke. "Look within. The answers are not just in the sea." Suddenly, the ground shook again, and I stumbled to keep my balance. The tide surged, crashing against the rocks in a frenzy. Panic bubbled up inside me. "I can't lose her!" I shouted into the storm. Without thinking, I took a deep breath and stepped toward the water. Every instinct told me to turn back, but the thought of Sarah drove me forward. I could see it, the outline of something glimmering beneath the surface, sinking deeper into the dark blue. As I waded into the waves, the cold water rushed over my legs, chilling me to the bone. I steadied myself, ready to dive. But then I heard a strange noise, a soft, haunting melody rising from the depths. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. That's when I saw it, a flash of light beneath the surface, pulsing in time with the song. It was calling me, urging me to dive deeper. My heart raced as I prepared to plunge into the unknown. I had to be quick before the tide shifted again and snatched the hope away. With one last glance at the stormy sky, I took a breath and dove into the icy waters, fully aware that whatever lay below might change everything. The moment I plunged into the water, the cold enveloped me like a shroud. Panic surged as I opened my eyes beneath the surface, the murky depths obscured by shadows. The melody wrapped around me, pulling me deeper, urging me to find the source of that flickering light. I kicked my legs, propelling myself downward. My lungs burned, but I couldn't turn back now. The flash glimmered ahead, brighter than before, dancing like a beacon in the darkness. It seemed to beckon me, promising answers, or perhaps more questions. Just as I reached for it, the water around me churned violently. A current yanked at my legs, dragging me away from the light. I flailed, my mind racing with thoughts of Sarah. I couldn't lose her, not now. Desperation coursed through me, and I fought against the tide, swimming harder and faster. The melody shifted, growing sharper, more urgent. My heart pounded in my ears, blending with the sound of rushing water. Then, unexpectedly, the pull of the current eased, and I found myself closer to the light. It pulsed, illuminating a shape beneath the waves. It wasn't just a stone. It was a figure, a woman, her long hair floating like seaweed, her eyes closed as if in a deep slumber. It was Sarah. Relief flooded through me, but a surge of fear followed quickly. Her stillness was unsettling. I reached out, touching her arm, and a jolt shot through me. In that moment, a vision struck me. I saw flashes of the man from the fog, his knowing gaze piercing through the dark. Images of shadows lurking around Sarah, ready to drag her away. I recoiled, the connection severing, but the images burned in my mind. "Sarah!" I shouted, my voice muffled underwater. I shook her, trying to rouse her from whatever slumber held her captive. Nothing happened. The current began to tug at me again, this time more aggressive, pulling me deeper into the unknown. I needed air. Panic clawed at my throat. I had to make a choice: abandon Sarah and save myself, or risk everything to pull her back. I bit my lip, the taste of salt and desperation mixing in my mouth. Could I really leave her? With a final surge of strength, I gripped her wrist and kicked upwards, pushing off the seabed as hard as I could. The water swirled around me, but the melody turned into a deafening roar, drowning out my thoughts and fears. I breached the surface, gasping for breath, the salty air filling my lungs. I looked around. The storm still raged above me, waves crashing like walls of thunder. My eyes darted back to the water, and my heart sank. Sarah wasn't there. I felt an icy wave of dread wash over me. Had I imagined it? Had I really seen her? Then a flash of movement caught my eye just beneath the surface, and I squinted to focus. Something dark swirled in the water, moving toward me. The melody returned, now filled with sinister undertones. My heart raced as I backed away. The shadows were coming, but this time they weren't just in my mind. Someone or something was waiting beneath the waves. There was no turning back. I had to find Sarah, and I had to do it fast. The storm raged on, waves crashing violently around me as I fought to keep my head above water. I could feel the ocean's power, pushing me back, clawing at me with a hungry force. My mind spun with fear and urgency. I couldn't let the shadows consume me. "Sarah!" I shouted again, my voice strained against the howling wind. I had to find her. The faint memory of her laughter echoed in my mind, like a ghost haunting my thoughts. Had I really seen her beneath the waves? Then, just as despair threatened to engulf me, I spotted something, a flash beneath the foam, unmistakable and vibrant. My heart raced. I knew I couldn't give up now. With every ounce of strength I could summon, I plunged beneath the surface again. The icy water wrapped around me, sending shivers racing down my spine. I looked around, desperately searching for that flickering light again. There, a shimmering glow pulsed in the depths. I kicked my legs hard, diving lower, ignoring the burn in my lungs. As I neared the luminous shape, I could make out a figure alight with a strange energy. It swirled like smoke, revealing itself to be the very essence of the ocean, the whispers of all those lost to the tide. Fear knotted in my stomach. What did it want from me? And then I saw her, Sarah, shoes washed away, hair flowing like kelp. She hovered gently in the water, her eyes serene but distant. I reached out, desperation clawing inside. "I'm here. I won't let you go." But before I could touch her, the dark shadows crashed around us, swirling into a frenzy. The haunting melody morphed into a cacophony of cries, a chorus of voices that threatened to drown me. "Come to us," they sang, the sound seeping into my soul, an alluring yet terrible invitation. "Stay away!" I shouted, defiance raging through me. I pushed towards Sarah, undeterred by the voices that sought to ensnare me. "I am not afraid," I yelled, even as doubt crept in. The shadows momentarily receded, revealing the space around Sarah. "You have to wake up," I pleaded, wrapping my fingers around her arm. Suddenly, the figure in the depths shifted, morphing into a tightly coiled entity. I could barely identify it. With a roar, it surged forward, a wave of pressure pushing against me. I was caught in its current, helpless as it dragged me backward. But in that moment, a memory struck me, a flash of the woman from the cottage. "Your love for her will guide you." I recalled her words and let them surge through me. I had to remember who Sarah was, the laughter, the warmth, the beating heart of our friendship. "Fight it, Sarah," I cried, forcing my will into my voice. "I know you're still in there. Remember who you are. Come back to me." The dark figure flinched, as if recoiling at the power of my words. I could feel its energy flickering, faltering beneath the weight of my plea. The shadows pulled back for a split second, revealing glimpses of her face, eyes fluttering beneath the ocean's surface. "Help me," she whispered, the sound reaching even my submerged ears. "Yes, I'm here," I shouted, swimming harder, refusing to let go. I surged forward, pulling her toward me through the misty turbulence, heart pounding with the need to free her from the grasp of the tide's spell. The shadows writhed and twisted, thrashing around us like angry serpents, intent on reclaiming their prey. "Join us," they chanted, their voices rising in a chilling harmony. But I wouldn't listen. "I won't let you take her," I cried out defiantly. With a final burst of strength, I pulled Sarah closer to me, my heart aching as I reached for her. Then I felt a surge, an electric connection form between us, as if the very essence of our friendship had ignited a barrier against the darkness. The shadows shuddered, their cries growing frantic, and I could see the glimmer of recognition in Sarah's eyes. "Come on, Sarah, let's go home," I urged, grasping her hand. It was as if the moment we connected, the shadows recoiled, their vortex of energy losing potency. Together we fought against the pull of the ocean. With a final gasp, I shot upward, Sarah in tow, the surface breaking free above us like a breath of fresh air. Light flooded back into our world, dispersing the shadows as we emerged. I could hardly believe it, not yet. I clung to Sarah fiercely, dragging her along with me as waves crashed against us, the dark roiling beneath the surface finally receding. As we broke through to the surface, sunlight poured over us, illuminating the beach, nearly drowning in chaos. I gasped, dragging Sarah toward the shore. She sputtered and coughed, eyes wide with confusion and fear. "Where?" she croaked, and I choked back tears of relief. "Just hold on, you're safe now," I breathed, finally feeling solid ground beneath our feet. But as we staggered painfully toward the edge of the beach, I couldn't shake the questions that clawed at my insides. What had we escaped? What had really happened in those depths? I glanced cautiously at the roaring ocean, wondering if the shadows still lurked beneath its surface, waiting for their next opportunity. We reached the shore, collapsing together on the sand, gasping for breath. But even as exhaustion overwhelmed me, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something still lingered between us, something tied to the ocean's memory and echoes of threats unseen. Did we truly escape? Sarah whispered, forehead wrinkling in confusion. I don't know, I replied honestly, still feeling the weight of uncertainty. There were no neat answers here, just the thrumming of questions hanging in the air, ambiguity lingering like a shadow across my heart. And even as we held each other tightly, a part of me wondered, could we walk away unscathed? I turned back, catching the briefest glimpse of a figure watching us from the water's edge. My breath caught, but when I squinted, it was gone, erased by the relentless tide. I moved away, unable to shake the unsettling feeling that perhaps our encounter with the ocean wasn't quite over. And in that moment, I understood. The ocean wasn't just a place. It held stories, histories, and shadows that intertwined with our own lives. I sighed, knowing as I gazed at the ever-moving waves that some mysteries would remain forever unanswered. I walked away slowly, reaching for Sarah's hand, offering what solace I could as we stepped into the future, together, but forever changed by what we had faced.